5:15, we have a quorum. And so let's call the meeting to order. And we have, first thing is approval of minutes, which are in, the motion is on page 3 of your packet. So I would entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Motion made. Do we have a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Okay. Any additions or corrections? If not, all in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 3 with one abstention. I don't know how to record that, I guess. Are we, is that okay? Do we need to have one more? We do. We've got Rob. Rob. Well. Let's just do the minutes again because we technically, because Tim abstained. You're right there. You found it. It's right there. So, Rob, we have a motion made and seconded for the approval of minutes from our last meeting. So I'll just call for the vote again. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4 with 1 abstention. 4-0 with 1 abstention. Okay. We then go to page, or Holly, do you want to talk about the bond counsel? Who talked about?
President Erickson and Commissioners, we will actually be having the City CFO, Lori Economy-Scholler, present this item.
Okay. Well, welcome, Lori.
Hello. How are you? This evening for 2.1, we have approval of agreements and appointment of bond counsel, termination of interim counsel agreement, and then again, kind of officially appointing Q-Tick Rock as the official bond attorney for the Port Authority.
Great. Well, of course, this whole thing is a result because a lot of the former people moved to Kutak Rock, and they've been our counsel for all these years. So, at any rate, well, we'll welcome Commissioner Peterson too. I would. Your motion is on page 6 to do this. Thank you. We have a motion made by Commissioner Hunt. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Keller. Any additional comments? Not all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay. The next one then is our external auditor's report. Welcome.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Andy Herring from Redpath & Company, the CPA firm you hired to conduct your 2024 financial audit. So I'm here to present the results of that audit. So I've just got a slideshow here. I believe you received that in a packet, but I'll just...
Please note for the record, we have Commissioner Nelson, so we have the full slate.
Great. Made it just in time for the audit presentation. That's right. Exactly. So as part of the audit, we issued 5 reports: a report on the opinion on the financial statements, a report on internal control, a report on legal compliance, a report on federal compliance, which I'll explain the applicability of that in a few minutes here, and then a communication letter to those charged with governance. And as a reminder, as we conduct the audit, we're auditing the city, the Port Authority, and the HRA all together. The statements of those 3 entities are all combined into one document, and so we're performing that audit together, but there's clearly distinct parts of that financial document. So I'm commenting on the Port Authority this evening. So the results, we issued an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion on the financial statements, the highest level of opinion the Port Authority can receive. There were no internal control findings, no legal compliance findings, and 4 findings related to compliance with federal compliance standards. And then with the governance letter, just a standard communications in that letter. The city, Port Authority, and HRA, each year they submit the annual financial report to the Government Finance Officers Association. That report then is graded on a national level to make sure.
Excuse me, the clicker there.
That would make sense. Thank you. That report is graded to make sure the financial statements are presented fairly and transparently in accordance with accounting standards. And the city, HRA, Port Authority received the Certificate of Achievement in Excellence for Financial Reporting for the 53rd consecutive year. So it's something to be very proud of. And that pertains to the 2023 financial statements. The 24 financial statements will be submitted to that program once again, and I expect the award to be awarded again. So first, the opinion on the financial statements. What do? We're determining that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. That's accounting lingo, that there are no material misstatements in the financial statements or misstatements that would affect the decisions of the financial statement user. We're not auditing to the nearest dollar. We don't audit every single transaction, but we're auditing in a way that to detect any material misstatements.
So Andy, what would materiality be for the city of Bloomington? How many million?
It varies depending on what I'm looking at, whether it's the city or the HRA or the port. I think the HRA, the 3 million sticks in my mind, but it varies also depending on what type of potential misstatement would be discovered. A $3 million misstatement to capital assets, fixed assets, is a lot less sensitive than a $3 million misstatement to cash. That's because of the amount of cash, it's fairly high, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, again, it's a fairly high amount that you get into, but thank you.
So we audit looking to make sure everything in the financial statement is accurate, that the amounts in the financial statements, that they have occurred. We're also looking to make sure everything is included in the financial statements that should be. That's the occurrence and completeness. And then making sure the amounts are accurate and presented in the right accounts and in the right funds of the port. Again, a variety of auditing techniques from analytics to sampling to inquiry of staff as we work through the audit. So once again, a clean opinion was awarded on the financial statements. And then just a step back and a few risks we identify and design our procedures for, risks that maybe internal controls could be overridden by management. Journal entries are an example of how that could occur. Somebody making an entry or an adjustment to items that were already posted and possibly pushing through that adjustment without proper approval. So we're looking for proper approval in journal entries. Cash disbursements or any form of disbursements is really a significant risk to all governmental entities. So we're looking to make sure that the disbursements are authorized, that there's no duplicate disbursements. There's always fraudsters out there looking for ways to steal from the Port Authority, from the citizens' money. Examples, impersonating port staff, city staff, impersonating vendors. Hey, we moved, we opened a new bank account, here's our new banking information, our new banking routing information. Please send the money here instead of the old one, when they're just impersonating somebody, impersonating a vendor. That's happened several times, not here at Bloomington, but other places that I've heard of. So these two risks that I had identified there, those are not specific to Bloomington, but something we're looking for as part of the audit. And we did not note any actual instances of those types of activities. So the next slide here is a report on internal controls that hits on the policies and procedures of the Port Authority. Examples include approval over disbursements, approval over monthly bank reconciliations, an ideal segregation of duties, making sure that no one person has too much authority in any given area, and then on the back end, a review of financial statements to detect possible errors. The result, no findings. We're also testing for compliance with state statutes. The state auditor issues a guide that contains 7 sections of various statutes that we're testing for. We test on a sample basis for compliance with those statutes. A biggie for the port is compliance with tax increment. There's a lot of tax increment financing activity, of course, at the port, and other depositories of public funds and investments. We're looking for any conflicts of interest. There's just one outstanding bond issue. There are statutes relating to bonds. No bonds were issued in 2024, but there are still ongoing compliance requirements with bonds. So we're testing for compliance with state statutes and did not find any instances of noncompliance. There is also an audit of federal compliance. Anytime an entity expends more than $750,000 of federal funds, there's what's called a single audit. And I know the port did not receive or expend any federal funds, but on the city and HRA side, there was. And we had 4 findings that were reported. So what I want to make sure you're at least aware of is that there are these findings where they exist. They do not pertain to any port activity, but there's a report that contains these findings. It just says City of Bloomington on it. And I think somebody that didn't know better could potentially either intentionally or unintentionally link the port to these findings. So I just want to make sure you are aware that they occurred, but that they do not pertain to the port. And those are findings relating to, there was 1 relating to the American Rescue Plan Act dollars, 2 related to CDBG dollars, 1 related to Section 8 dollars, all fairly minor in nature. There were no actual questioned costs or costs that were doubted, but more compliance issues with the policies and procedures.
So Andy, when you're doing audits, are these the kind of things that you typically find happening in other cities that you review and things? I mean, again, it's some of these, the compliance is so difficult, everybody's going to probably make a few mistakes.
Yes, it's especially with the single audit or the federal compliance, those, you're right, the compliance standards are so complex and detailed, and by design, these federal compliance audits are very meticulous, so it's common to find findings related to federal compliance, yeah.
Thank you.
And then the last report we issue is it's called a communication letter with those charged with governance. It's a letter of required communications from the auditor to governance, or in this case, the port commissioners. There was 1 new auditing standard or accounting standard that was adopted in 2024 related to accrued PTO and sick time, which doesn't directly affect the Port Authority. A reminder that there are a few estimates in the financial statements. The one most applicable to the Port Authority is the estimated resale value of land, the old Thunderbird motel site. There were no difficulties encountered during the audit. Worked with Mary Kay and the rest of the finance team, and everything went smoothly. So she and the other staff were very well prepared for us. And lastly, no material misstatements were detected. So to your point there, we did have one immaterial misstatement that we found just relating to, I think it was recording something relating to the contribution from the city for the sick ramp in the correct period. So it's a fairly minor item. It was a 2023 item that ended up getting reported in 2024. But again, a minor item. And then just a financial summary. The overall fund balance of the port did increase about $9.3 million. But a reminder, I think I went one too far there. A reminder that most of that fund balance is restricted. Either there's a smaller amount restricted for debt service, and then all of the tax increment financing districts have restrictions with those that the funds derived from tax increment can only be used for specific purposes. A few highlights: the South Loop Port Fund did receive $9 million in financing from the city's South Loop Fund for the sick parking ramp. About $4.8 million remains outstanding on the 2015 TIF bonds. Tax increment revenue remains strong at $13.1 million. Also strong investment income, $6.5 million compared to $5.9 million the year before with high interest rates. And again, fund balance increased. So overall, the port's in healthy financial condition and no findings directly related to the port activity.
Well, it sounds like it's a good report. I always said when I was Chief Financial Officer of the University of Minnesota, it was my job to be boring and not have my name in the paper. And the same thing when I was Treasurer Supervisor. So it's this activity is extremely important to do, and the assurance that we get, but boring in this particular case is good.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions, comments? Commissioner Luntz?
Yeah, I just a little intrigued on that land owned by the city at $17.5 million. Where does that number come from, and does that change from year to year? Does it reflect depreciation, or it would change, of course, if the city bought more land during that year. But if they don't, is that number kept fairly flat? And how's the $17.5 million determined?
That was the original cost, and I don't recall if that included demolition cost or not, but that was the original cost, and it does not get inflated as the value potentially goes up, but what we're looking for is it potentially have a lower value each year. So if it has a lower value, it gets written down, but never up. So that was the original cost.
Just pure curiosity, off the top of your head, how many parcels of land is that? Can you remember?
I don't know that. I'm sorry.
Other questions, comments? If not, we have a motion on page 7, which I would entertain to accept the report. Commissioner Hunt moves. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. The next one, I guess, is you, Holly. Are you going to talk about Elevate Hennepin? Oh, we got Barb. Okay.
President Erickson and Commissioners, it will be Barb Wolf, and then we also have our colleague from Hennepin County with us as well.
Welcome, Barb.
Well, thanks for having me. Good evening, Port President and Commissioners. I'm Barb Wolf, Assistant Port Authority Administrator, serving as an advocate and liaison to our business community. So tonight I'm going to share some information about Elevate Hennepin It's been 2 years since we presented, so bringing it top of mind again. Elevate Hennepin is a partnership between Hennepin County, the city of Bloomington. Oh, that's loud. I don't know why that. Between the city of Bloomington and several other communities within Hennepin County. The city of Bloomington has partnered and supported with Hennepin County since December of 2020, which is when Elevate Hennepin began. So I'll share a bit about how Elevate Hennepin started, the range of resources offered now, and the collective impacts generated from the beginning through 2024. As Holly mentioned, tonight Brandon Bell is here with me. He's Principal Planning Analyst with Hennepin County. He's been a great supporter and partner of this program and many other programs that we have. So excited to have him here with us this evening to answer any questions. So why entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs and small businesses are important to our local economy, as many of us on this board know, that create resilient communities, better able to retain employees, create places that attract better talent, generate wealth that stays in our community, and of course, we don't know which small business is going to be our next big business. Okay, so Elevate Hennepin is focused on tackling disparities by focusing on equity and creating accessible pathways to entrepreneurship, which of course partners very well with the city's strategic initiative From Bloomington Tomorrow Together, particularly our equitable economic growth across and throughout our community. So Elevate Hennepin has created a diverse and inclusive network of professional advisors, improved communication with our existing business owners, connect our entrepreneurs and help grow business ideas, offer assistance with problem solving and finding solutions, and creating several peer networks. So basically this platform has grown over the years in response to our businesses. So what exactly is Elevate Hennepin? And just simply, it's a small business support system of resources. So as I stated, this initiative launched in late 2020 as businesses were struggling with the impacts of the pandemic and also civil unrest. So Hennepin County convened a diverse group of business owners to serve on a business advisory council appointed by the Hennepin County Board to guide the county in their economic relief and recovery efforts, similar to what we did in Bloomington. So in direct response to guidance from that Business Advisory Council, Hennepin County created the Elevate Hennepin platform. So a single online place for businesses to go to access resources, primarily utilization of the one-on-one business consulting services to business owners. And then through this continuous feedback from business owners, Hennepin County has responded and launched additional programming over the years. So now we have a series of cohort programs. Hennepin County now has business navigators that meet virtually with businesses. And so I liken that as sort of like another me, so talking to businesses directly and directing them to the business advisors that they can utilize and best fit their needs. And then new this year, one-time funding is 2 new small business loan funds to increase access to capital. And I'll touch on those. So this is where we come in. While I think of Hennepin County as a tremendous partner for me and our local business community, us along with other municipalities do help support this endeavor with financial support, spreading the resource through our own promotion and marketing, and also, of course, word of mouth. We serve as partners and hosts of the programs and events. And really, all of these city partners have been and continue to be a vital part of Elevate Hennepin's success. And I just want to note that over 58% of Hennepin County businesses are outside of the Minneapolis area. So Elevate Hennepin, this is the front page of it. It's a one-stop shop for programming by Hennepin County. But it also offers resources and events and programs offered at the local, state, and federal levels. So any programs that we would have in Bloomington here, if I want support in marketing and promoting those, I contact Hennepin County. Like I said, they've evolved with these improvements, continuing to update the website itself, making it more accessible, more vibrant, and consolidating all the resources. And their comms team has been partnering with ours and have a number of stories and events that they're promoting, and all these learning opportunities are in that one place. Most of these resources are at no cost. Very few of them have a small cost associated with them. The intake forms for the business owners themselves only take 3 to 5 minutes, and there's no account or password required for that as well. Most in-demand resource is that one-to-one advising for business owners. So the only cost to the business owners is their time commitment. We know that that is still also a struggle, but that's the one thing that we ask from them. Currently, we have 34 advisors on Elevate Hennepin with a variety of expertise available to work with consultants to help business owners solve their problems that they're facing. So any business owner in Hennepin County can access these resources, which is 25 hours of no-cost support with each one of the advisors in 10 areas of expertise. What I really particularly love about this program, well, there's so many things to love about it, but all of these advisors are small businesses themselves throughout the metro area, so they're getting paid. So it's a program supporting small businesses in multiple ways. So these are the 10 areas that we're focusing on for support that have been the biggest need that we hear from business owners. And there's still a lot of details on the website. It is very simplified from what we originally started with, but that's why the business navigation is there. That's why there's a first point of contact here at the city as well. So those navigation sessions that business owners can have is 10 to 15 minutes. So finding out what their needs are and directing them to the consultant that can work with them. Like I said, Hennepin County's communications team and our comms team have worked together. There's a number of different businesses in Bloomington that have used the services, and their comms team have done stories on. Gilberto Diaz here, he's the owner of Laurel Boots. They've done a story and video on Gilberto. He's worked with 2 advisors, one of which is Next Stage, which also is another small business in Bloomington, to help Gilberto gain access to capital when he expanded his store. And also JLLB Media designed a new website for him when he expanded as well. See if we can get past that. And then there's these fun things that are in here, which are never good during a presentation, and we have a slow. Okay, so in addition to the one-on-one advising, over the years, Elevate Hennepin has also offered a variety of cohort learning opportunities. You can see these from the emerging entrepreneur up to early stage, and then further. So the facilitators of these programs are also just like the one-on-one advising, they're local and diverse, and many of them are business owners themselves. So the programs at the early stage, CEO Start Bootcamp and also CEO Start, we've held both of those programs here in Bloomington. CEO Start was the first time this past weekend with our top 25 Hatch applicants. It was excellent programming, and will help those participants with their first pitch next week. All the way up to more advanced programming for second stage businesses. All of these programs listed here range from 2 days to 8 months in length, depending on the program. Most are in person with the exception of Certified Access, which is offered virtually. And again, these programs are offered at no financial cost to the business owner except for their time. An additional offering here is the Coven. Hennepin County now offers a no-cost online membership to the Coven's digital library of entrepreneurial programming. The Coven, for those that aren't familiar, is a co-working space and community space. There's a location, I think there's 2 in St. Paul, 1 in Minneapolis. There's over 100 episodes. Just these are some of the titles here that business owners can access. So touching on those 2 new small business capital funds that were launched this year, Elevate Hennepin Small Business Loans and Elevate Hennepin Commercial Ownership Fund. These are one-time funding to offer low barrier financing for startups and established small businesses. So Hennepin County is actually investing $4.2 million into these 2 capital funds. And through a competitive RFP process last year, Next Stage, again, one of our Bloomington businesses, was chosen to distribute that funding to small businesses throughout Hennepin County. And they've already partnered on a couple of projects with us. Okay, so workshops and events, monthly events have been added. I would touch on here, some of these are newer. Thriving Thursdays is a new one that's just getting implemented. That is sort of a take on our Welcoming Wednesdays that Bloomington has been partnering with Launch Minnesota on. We're in our 3rd year of that. If you're unfamiliar, on the 2nd Wednesday of every month, we offer technical business advising hours, again, with Next Stage as our partner this year. So Thriving Thursdays, the City of Bloomington will also partner with Hennepin County on that, so that'll be coming up later this year. That will allow office hours here in Bloomington, perhaps not at City Hall, staffed by business advisors. We continue to partner with Hennepin County on the annual Love Local campaign. We've been doing this since the beginning as well. When you visit businesses throughout the community, you may see some of these stickers, not this one in particular, but see them on some of our business windows. So what are the impacts of all this work? This is a reflection across Hennepin County. This is from 2020 through 2024. So this map reflects all the businesses across the spectrum. So reflected in pink here, the advisor served over 3,200 businesses with 41,000 hours of support. And Elevate Hennepin advisors have also helped over 200 businesses launch. And the cohort programs depicted here in blue have graduated 244 businesses since their conception. And the advisors have assisted businesses with obtaining nearly $36 million in financing. With the support of county financing, businesses have been able to create 688 new jobs throughout Hennepin County. Some specific numbers to Bloomington. Elevate Hennepin stats here. In 2024, 92 of our businesses in our community received that one-on-one advising hours with 1,228 hours of assistance. And so this just helps demonstrate some of that need in our community. And then you can also see some of the top vendors from the advisors on who's using those services and what they are. And so really, I just want to iterate that the goal with Hennepin County is not to serve every small business within Hennepin County. This serves as a resource and a partner for us so that when businesses do contact us and they need that assistance, it's here for them. And so with that, I'll stand for some questions along with Brandon Bell from Hennepin County.
Thank you, Barb. Welcome, Brendan. Port Authority questions, comments? You know, one of the things that, as you're talking, and I think we've been talking about this for a number of years, is we have been serving the large businesses because they have the resources to come and get our attention, but the small businesses haven't. And I know in my career at SuperValue, a lot of what we did with our affiliated retailers was help them navigate. And it's a very difficult kind of thing to do that for so many businesses, and the world has gotten a lot more complex. So I applaud what you're doing, and it looks like you're getting some interest in that, and to have some place where somebody starting out can go and get some help and point them in the right direction and say, you got to be aware of this, you got to be aware of that, and you know, there's a lot of complexities if you're operating anything, and they've gotten more complex with some of the new compensated absences and everything else that we have to deal with. So, Brendan, do you want to make any comments?
Yeah, so Brandon Bell, thank you, President Erickson and commissioners for having me here today. Brandon Bell with Hennepin County, Principal Planning Analyst. I just want to say I think Bloomington's doing a really good job. I think you have taken a real proactive approach with small businesses. There's what you really need to do. And, you know, a lot of credit to Barb for the programs she's helped develop here. You know, when I have someone new from another city that says, you know, what can I do to help out in my community? I usually send them Barb's way because, you know, you have an extensive programming here, and it takes a while for some of these things to catch on. And really, we see that a lot of the referrals and the recommendations come through word of mouth. And so you have to start somewhere, and it's been really snowballing, and we're starting to get these basic services to the small business owners that we need. And we're seeing a lot of success in Bloomington. So thank you for all the work that you put in as commissioners and being dedicated to your small businesses. And thank you for being a partner in Elevate Hennepin.
Great. Other comments, Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for the presentation. I can speak directly to the CEO Start program because I've been able to speak at a couple of the graduation ceremonies that they've done. It's a great group. It's always a lot of energy. Great night. Maybe you could share, if you could. You showed the graph about the gender breakdown, the number of employees, that kind of thing. But what kind of businesses are you seeing coming through the CEO Start program? What's most common? What's really stood out in your mind? What do you think has really caught your attention as a potential for success?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so for CEO Start, I mean, we see a wide range of ideas, and that's sort of what's interesting is sort of the imagination that you see behind some of these things where you didn't even know this could be a successful business. We have someone who rents out llamas that's from Richfield, or llamas are not in Richfield. But she's been taking off ever since CEO Start, and she goes to parties with these llamas, and, you know, I wouldn't have thought that was a good, like, I wouldn't have think like, oh, that's a business idea, right? You know, llamas in the city, but it's working, and that's, at least for me, is like something that's very it's enjoyable to see that these ideas that people have. You know, we see a lot of service-based ideas. We had in the most recent CEO Start, we had someone who was, I think they would call them like a death counselor or something like that to help people plan like their own you know, celebrations of life or help family members and stuff. And it's a service that we found out that she presented about that there's really only a couple of those people that are doing that in the Twin Cities. So there's a need for it, and that's what we're finding is there's these gaps that these idea stage entrepreneurs see, and they just need help getting in there and starting it to fill that gap. So that's really what we see a lot of happening. You know, it's a big mix of service and like retail is what we're seeing. So it's a pretty good mix of that.
Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Peterson?
Thank you. So one thing I want to say is, and it wasn't in the presentation, but it's in the agenda, is the last time you were here, we talked about kind of inputs versus outputs in this and wanted to kind of look at outputs. And I'm happy to see that there was some discussion of outputs in here, and that's a good thing. And I'd ask you to continue to focus on that. Kind of the next thing I'm going to, at least as one commissioner, kind of challenge you on, and this is maybe I'll be looking a little bit more at Barb here, is a lot of, while we talk about some small businesses turn into big businesses, a lot of the services that we're providing here are really not supporting businesses that have the potential to scale to large businesses. And I think those businesses still need support, and we should continue to do that. But I would encourage you to think about, are there things that we could be doing with a portion of our resources that are targeted at businesses that have the potential to scale so that we're getting some of those businesses in the mix. Something that has the potential to scale beyond our city, maybe serving needs beyond that. Because I think those, if we can get some of those in the mix, those have the potential to kind of really increase the employment impact of what we're doing here. And so that'd be my challenge without taking too much focus away from the kind of small business side of this is what can we do with entrepreneurs who have ideas that have the potential to be big things, and helping them get started and have them be in Bloomington in starting their business. Because I think that'll, if you look at the metrics in here, one of the metrics you talked about was kind of number of employees that generated, and that would if you can take those resources and make that number be bigger without having to have a lot more resources, that creates a bigger benefit. So that'd be my personal challenge to kind of think about that.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Other questions, comments? Well, thank you very much. We'll look forward to some future presentations and just keep doing the work.
Thank you.
Okay. Holly, you're going to cover our state legislation requiring local approval?
I'm actually not. President Erickson and commissioners, Assistant Port Authority Administrator Kevin Canais has the next three items, but I will be speaking to it a little bit more during my administrator updates at the end. This is the technical part of what we need to do.
Bob, it's not like the olden days where we had one employee. Remember now there's a little org chart. And
I think what we're seeing is Holly knows how to delegate.
Yeah.
All right. Kevin.
Yes. Good evening, Board President, Mayor, and Commissioners. So this item is approving resolutions for the 2025 state legislation. So we're required to approve it at a local level. And just a kind of an overview on that. So the city pursued two items of legislation, and that was extending the tax exemption for the Ramada property. So that's 3 sites on the Ramada sites just north of the Mall of America by 6 years. So extending that economic development exemption, and then also extending the timeline for the spending plan TIF deadlines and the start of construction by 2 years to December 31st of 2027. And so the motions reference those 2 items. So council will also be considering those items on June 30th. And as a result of it being approved by the legislature in the special session, we are required to file a certification of approval with the Secretary of State. And the laws have not been codified yet. So my understanding is they've been presented to the governor, but we don't have the full article numbers and references yet. So what you're seeing in your packet is the numbers that were in the special legislation. So the document that we actually need to execute is left blank as a result of that. And as a reminder, the action is in regard to accepting that legislation. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for Kevin? Comments? Well, if not, I think we have 2 motions that we need to make then. So I would entertain the first motion.
Mr. President, I'd move a resolution approving laws of Minnesota 2025 for a special session, Chapter 13, Article 2, Section 17, authorizing the city of Bloomington to file an application for property tax exemption for certain properties owned by the Port Authority of the city of Bloomington and to authorize related actions consistent with the intent of the resolution.
Second.
Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Luntz. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And then we have a second motion on the same page 45. We have somebody else that wants to tackle reading it?
Mr. President, I would move a resolution approving laws of Minnesota 2025 for a special session, Chapter 13, Article 5, Section 6, authorizing the city of Bloomington to amend its spending plan to spend, loan, or invest transferred increment as authorized under Section 469.176, Subdivision 4N, through December 31st, 2027, and to authorize related actions consistent with the intent of the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Peterson. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right. Anything else for us, Kevin?
Yes, the next item before you is the Ramada property purchase agreement termination, which aligns with that last item. And I'm kind of just jumping into the next thing here. So the Port's May meeting, the Port approved a sale of the Ramada property sale to the city of Bloomington. And during that same time, the legislature was evaluating the extension that we just referenced in the last item. And due to the fact that that item was passed by the legislature and we received a 6-year economic development tax exemption for that site, staff is requesting to terminate that purchase agreement and for the property to remain with the port for the purposes of economic development. And so the city would continue to evaluate economic development opportunities at that property that really reflect the preeminence of the site and also its location as an entry point to the city. So the request is to authorize a termination of that purchase agreement, which was not executed but was signed by both the port and city.
This gets rather complicated. I don't know. Does the city council think that the Port Authority is being untruthful or anything on this whole process?
And if I could, Mr. President, this was a complicated issue, and I think it proved more than anything, especially with some of our friends online, the notion of, in the absence of information, they'll create their own. And we saw that throughout the conversation around this. And I think in canceling this, I think we need to clarify, we need to communicate as much as we possibly can. Will there be a bike skills course there anymore or not? What the whole deal was, what we were trying to accomplish, just to try and put to rest some of the wilder theories about what was going on and what we were trying to accomplish in doing all of this.
Yes, President and Mayor, Commissioners, so the intention would be to not proceed with the bike skills course due to the fact that that would add additional cost to the residents of the city. So the intention would be to market the property for a more intense use that reflects both the location, but then also the opportunity to increase the tax base through development at that site.
And I assume that the folks at the Mall of America have continued to agree that this process, transferring back and forth, is okay with them?
Yes, Port President. So we had discussions with the Mall of America where they were going to execute a consent agreement to allow for us to transfer the property. So they have a right of first refusal for that property. We negotiated that with them, and we're prepared to execute that. But due to the fact that we do not, we're not recommending the transfer, if you agree to the termination, we will not execute that consent as a result of that action.
And when does their right of first refusal expire?
It expires on April 30th of 2026.
Okay, so another year. Commissioner Lutz?
April 30th of 2026.
That's the Mall of America's first right of refusal?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, I would entertain the motion on page 57 of your package. I see people busy looking at it. Commissioner Nelson, you look like you had a smile on your face. Do you want to go for it?
Appreciate that, Mr. President. All right. It's on 57.
Yes.
I'd move to approve a termination of purchase agreement executed by the Port Authority and the City of Bloomington for the former Ramada Thunderbird Hotel site and authorization to execute all related and necessary documents required.
Mr. President, I'm just going to raise a technical question, but
First, can I second his motion?
yeah, please do.
Thank you. Motion, and now we can.
Okay, Mr. Keller?
Is there some obscure conflict for people who are city government people and then port people, like, say, these two guys? I mean, you're going to vote on both sides of this thing. I'm just curious. You said there was some hullabaloo at some point, and I'm trying to help avoid any pointless, baseless stuff in the future. We have a quorum without, but
I think we have our city attorney here.
Oh,
that
excellent.
Melissa can probably tell us. She's probably, I'm sure, been over this many times.
I wouldn't have brought her up if I didn't hear the
Mayor members, or excuse me, that's not where we're at. We are at chair and
There's the
commissioners.
problem.
Thank you for the question. So the city and the port are in alignment at the staff level on what the next steps are, and have been throughout the entire process. So I don't see there as being a conflict of interest. I appreciate what you're saying in that the parties are duplicative, with the two members being on both bodies, but I don't see it as a conflict that wouldn't be able to be waived. So I think you've brought up a good point of the discussion, but I don't see it as something that
Great, thanks.
is,
I recognize it's a hyper-technical,
Thank you.
annoying point, but I
Okay.
just,
Any further discussion on the point? If not, we have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Anything else for us, Kevin?
The next agenda item.
Okay. You're on a roll.
So the next item is the Bloomington Central Station Grocery Amended and Restated Recapture Agreement Update. So as a reminder, we also saw this on the May 20th meeting. And during that meeting, Commissioner Luntz introduced a small revision to the language regarding appraisal determinations for cap rates and market value. We brought back those language recommendations and changes back to McGuff, the developer of the property, to finalize those changes in the agreement. And during that process, McGuff discovered some language about how the tenant provides their information regarding to their gross sales and how we calculate the percentage rent. And that didn't align with the lease that they had executed with their tenant. So as a result of that change, we're bringing back a small revision to the agreement that effectively just changes that language just a little bit, where McGuff would collect the information from the tenant and then provide it to the city based on a request that the city would make of that information. So the request is to approve the agreement with those modifications, as well as the request that Commissioner Luntz made about the appraisal language. And then also small update, we also learned that the tenant, so Colonial Market, filed for their environmental health permits, which is kind of a step before opening. So they're still on a timeline to open later this summer.
Great. Commissioner Luntz, does that satisfy you with the change?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
They're going to have a liquor license?
Yes, the intention is for them to operate both grocery and liquor, and then also have a quick serve restaurant component as well.
Good.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I would entertain the motion then on page 59 of your package. It's a fairly simple one to read. Commissioner Peterson, you look like you want to read.
I move that we approve the amended and restated recapture agreement with BCS for Multifamily LLC as substantially set forth in this agenda item.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Luntz.
artfully done as
Any further discussion? Not all in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're done. Okay.
Okay, President.
Holly.
Yes, President Erickson and commissioners, thank you for saying I delegate now. It's a good skill to have. You saw the org chart; it's getting crazy. So thank you very much for being here this evening. I do have a few general updates I'd like to provide to you all. One is I did forward a recap of the legislative activity that took place this year at the state capitol with our our lobbyist there, Katie Sen, presented to City Council last night. So I know two of you saw this, but a few items that are relevant to us. You heard about the Ramada property tax exemption. We are looking forward to marketing that site and really drawing some significant development there. The extension to our spending plan TIF will enable us to continue our conversations with Mall of America to build a water park. So we will be continuing those conversations with you as well, and are optimistic that we'll be discussing that at future meetings. Another thing that we had was the Minnesota Forward Fund. That fund was created to help assist with some of our chips and high-tech manufacturing and required a federal match. This year, the legislature decoupled the fund from the federal match, which allows more companies to go after that funding to support them. So high-tech manufacturing is certainly a space that Bloomington is excited to grow our employment in, and we hope that some of our companies here can take advantage of that as well. Unfortunately, we were not lucky with our appeal for some funding for our Bloomington program, but that program continues to expand, and the main expense of that program at this point is staff time. So we hope to come back to you as we get into our budget season and talk about how we might continue that program moving forward. Any questions about our legislative updates?
Mr. Mayor, do you want to make any comment or anything?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Holly covered it very well. In addition, the only other biggie I think worth noting, there was a bonding request from the city to help with the sewer expansion project, especially as it comes out of the Southtown area, the Penn American District. For some reason, the state, they passed the bonding bill and didn't pass any local projects within that bonding bill. And they allocated money to state institutions and state agencies, but not individual water projects or other smaller projects. And I think Katie, our lobbyist, reported last night, we were optimistic because it was a water project. There was general consensus around the need for water projects, and we were a metro water project. And then, of course, it didn't pass any on the local level. So another one that we need to continue to work on, especially if we hope to expand the sewer capacity in that area, which would then, of course, lead to redevelopment opportunities in the Southtown and Penn American District.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah. Thank you, President. One other thing to note in there was a lot of housing-related activity in there, and one of the things that I think will impact the port and some of the larger multifamily housing projects throughout the community is a preference in terms of funding for communities that have taken various steps to be proactive in trying to build more housing units, and I think that'll help us because I think we've done most of what they've requested, so we'll score higher in the grant funding opportunities there. So. And then the only thing, this isn't really related to that, but it's connected to it, is the Elevate Hennepin and some of the stuff with the, particularly the chips and the manufacturing, the high-tech manufacturing. I'm wondering if anything in Elevate Hennepin can be designed to target specific industries that we would like to promote within the community, if we can try to develop programming or support for, I think to the point of taking companies to the next step that maybe aren't just Bloomington related, but are even bigger than that. If there's anything we can do to help support specific industries within the community in terms of those programs. I don't know, all the answers, just throwing that out there as a thought and an idea.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. And I did want to comment on that. Elevate Hennepin is at this time focused primarily on those smaller businesses. And I know you're talking about what is the next step to get to scalable businesses. We do work with another organization called Greater MSP that I think you all are aware of, and they tend to be a group that is focusing on building those coalitions. They were leading the CHIPS coalition work. And then we had a presentation this morning from DEED, from the state's workforce board, about the Drive for 5 industries as well. So that's more from the supply side, the workforce side, and training. But your comments are taken about how can we really focus on those industries that are of interest to us here in Bloomington. So I think we will be having some conversations about that in the future.
Good. Any other questions, comments?
I do have a few other updates
Okay.
as well. I'm so sorry. I just paused on that one because I knew that was an
you're on a roll.
expansive
You're on a roll,
topic.
Holly.
Thank you so much. All right. So one other thing I mentioned that we are moving into our budget season. So you will expect to see the port's budget and levy request in September and likely November, maybe October here, as you have in the past. And then that will follow at City Council the next month. So that's the sequence we've been following. I did want to let you know that in consultation with our auditor and with our finance team, we are looking to do some naming changes. So up until this point, you have known the funds that are in the South Loop as the general fund, which has become confusing given that we now work citywide. So our levy, moving forward, we will be renaming it to the Port's General Fund. We'll take some transition time with that. We'll always make it clear when we're talking about the levy versus other funds that the port has available, but that is something we are taking on within the finance team and the port to make our fund names more logical for the future. So just want to make you aware of that. We'll get used to it over time. And then one other piece of good news, at a previous meeting, you pledged up to $90,000 to support the prize for Hatch Bloomington, which is $100,000. We did get some good news that Stearns Bank has pledged $10,000, and then they were able to secure a 3 times match. So an additional $40,000 has been pledged to the program. So the port is now supporting with $50,000 instead of $90,000.
Great.
And I believe that is it for this evening. Thank you all for being here.
Well, that's always nice to have a very positive note that we can save money on the way out. And, I think the thing that we get into with the legislature, having just completed the special session, the exiting comment by many is that they may be back again with all the things that are going on the federal level. So we're living in very different times that we're going to have to be looking at a lot of things, but I think it's just so important that we can keep those things, the drivers of the community, going. So with that, I think we're adjourned.
Okay. Thank you all.